And speaking of music, remember when music was something that you could hold in your hands, and of course you could also store on your shelves. And I'm not talking about CDs, I'm talking about vinyl. Vinyl was the recording standard for decades, and it is now making a comeback in the digital age. I recently visited United Record Pressing, the largest vinyl record company in the country. It was an eye-opening and an ear-opening experience.
This is a new building. We, started making records in 1949, and with the growth of vinyl, we just needed to find a bigger space and add more presses and double staff. So we're kind of a one-stop shop here. And one of the companies that we work with for the very first step of making a record is Nashville Record Productions. And this is where we cut the lacquer. To preserve it, we have to take it through what's called an electroplating process. And that's where we have to turn it into metal parts so we can put it onto the press. From the lacquer, we create what's called a master. And then we create a mother, and then we create stampers. And these stampers are what actually are bolted onto the press in kind of like a waffle maker. So right here I'm going to show you the special split vinyl press. First we start with these PVC vinyl pellets. They're kind of like little beads, you can see. And these are what are poured into these hoppers and melted down at a really, really high heat through these extruders. So kind of think like toothpaste as it's being melted down. So as it's being melted down, it's coming out into this, what we call a puck or a biscuit. You can see right there. So it picks up the labels and it puts it into this, and it's going to press it. So it's pressing about 60 tons of pressure right now. And it takes about 30 seconds to make one record. So we call the trimming the excess flash. And so it's going to trim it, and we regrind that material and reuse it so we can recycle it. So, and here we have our split color record.
United Record Pressing tells us they are now churning out about 40,000 records every day thanks to the surge of interest in vinyl by millennials. What's old is new.
Ah, yes. Before the digital downloads and CDs, there was the tape cassette. Perhaps you made a mixtape back in the 80s or 90s.
Yes.
And if you can believe it, they are making sort of a comeback. Soon, one company will be the only one left on the planet making them.
You're kidding me. Team 12's Taylor Hemness takes us for a trip through the past and into the future. Plus, play, record right now.
The building was built in the 1880s. Most of the equipment inside
built in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. And as we say, our really new equipment was built in the early 90s.
But try telling the folks at National Audio that their product is extinct.
When I started here, my son, he told me, he says, you don't want that job. The cassettes are going out of business. And I've been here 16 years.
They're making cassette tapes, cranking out thousands every day. Every step includes a process or piece of equipment that feels like it's from another time.
It will run them through, put the cellophane wrap on them, bring them out this end, and put them here.
They're working with small bands that you may have never heard of, but also big companies. For films and shows that you know well.
We do the duplication for Disney, for Sony, and we actually work for about 3,400 record labels worldwide.
Which may explain who's buying all these tapes.
The people who are really driving this return to audio cassettes are the under 35 age group. They are the people who were raised knowing MP3s and earbuds and compressed music.
But what the people here at National Audio Company are most excited about is this machine. Once it's up and running in just a few months, they will be able to make their own cassette tape, the actual tape that goes into the plastic part of the cassette. Once they do that, with this machine, they'll be the only company in the world doing it.
This is the bonding agent in carbon black, basic iron oxide.
All that will go into the creation of the tape they'll need to stay in business.
We knew we had to make tape if we were going to continue, so that's what we've done.
But in a sense, they're not really in the tape business. Barb's been here for more than 15 years and spends her days covered in the stuff. But she doesn't see it as just tape anymore.
This is somebody's dream, and I hope it works out for him.
Even if she's happy to leave those dreams at work.
Oh, I don't listen to music when I get out of here. I want some peace and quiet.
She still listens to it constantly. I remember my first cassette tape was Gloria Estefan.
Now that is classic.
Oh my gosh. Come on, baby. That rumba.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, mine was Pearl Jam 10. There was something so personal about making the cassette tape, right? You choose your songs carefully, then you handwrite in each song. Right?
Yes.
Then you give it to your crush or to, you know, your best buddy.
Did your crush like Pearl Jam?
No, that was just my first cassette tape.
National.
You're watching Fox 17 News.
The VHS revival is in full swing. At least that's according to the owner of Spin City in Muskegon.
He told me over the last 4.5 years, the popularity of physical media has spiked.
I've had people travel really far specifically just for the VHS.
It used to be a common destination, the video store.
So I remember the Blockbusters and Family Videos and Hollywoods.
Packed with new releases, kids' classic, and the occasional obscure title, they were excitement personified on a Friday night.
There's just a magic to it.
You could find VHS tapes everywhere. And then in the early 2000s, the industry started moving away from analog.
I was born in '96, so I grew up right at the very as the transition was happening.
Harrison Lang opened Spin City Static Tape inside Muskegon's Lakes Mall about 4.5 years ago.
Of course, got a lot of flack for, from friends and family being like, well, there's Netflix, there's this, there's more streaming services coming.
Despite the pushback around him, Harrison felt there was an underserved population that wanted to harken back to an age of physical media.
COVID really ramped up just collecting in general, though. And that was the thing no one could predict.
And it's hard to argue that there isn't something special about holding a piece of physical media in your hands. It's a visceral experience. A chance to feel that surge of nostalgia from childhood walking the aisles of a video store and to make new memories.
They don't just sell VHS tapes. It's all kind of media, past and present.
That's all my VHS over there, and then back over here, I have a horror section. That's my sci-fi, fantasy, and adventure. I got children.
But alas, the VHS are the main attraction here, particularly the campy, more bloody titles.
Especially back then, there was a lot of pushback on that type of stuff, Friday the 13th and Evil Dead. Some of them were hard to find even then or didn't get big production then.
Some of the tapes come into the shop as part of somebody's old collection. Some Harrison has to venture out to find.
Traveled all over the Midwest for people that I've seen posted either on Craigslist or Facebook.
Growing his business and spreading whatever magic can be found inside the plastic shell of a VHS tape.
It brings people together, especially when you were too young, those memories of being scared of movies of Chucky and Jason and Freddy, you remember those forever.
And Harrison has been kicking around the idea of hosting screenings of old films and VHS tape swaps in and around his location at the Lakes Mall. For now, he is usually at the shop if you want to stop in.
Well, back in the 1970s, the video cassette recorder changed the way we all watch TV.
Now we've gone from VCRs to DVD players to just streaming right from our TVs. But ABC's Danny New tells us how the OG is making a comeback.
Quick, where are the Schwarzenegger films?
Foreign films are in the back.
Video stores. We may not see them as much these days, but the tapes stuck around.
VHS never left. There has always been people watching VHS tapes.
Josh Schaefer here runs Lunch Meat, a magazine and releasing label dedicated to the increasing number of folks who still love popping in a good old VHS.
Why do you think VHS is coming back but not DVDs?
I think VHS has a particular feel to it. I think that people like the physicality of it.
To generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. 1.21 gigawatts!
Just a few summers ago, a copy of Back to the Future sold at auction for $75,000. And a copy of The Goonies was listed on eBay for $125,000.
And then it went national, and now it's in our area too, in a couple spots. Here's the one in Lafayette.
And as I reported last year, these free Blockbuster dispensers have been popping up all over the country, offering people a lending library to share nostalgia together.
There's a vibe. There's an aesthetic to it. It is important to preserve that look and to show it to new generations.
I can't wait to tell my kids how often I taped American Idol.
3 favorite movies, go.
The Apartment.
Sure, shows like Stranger Things have also turned up the nostalgia. And artists like Taylor Swift continue to dominate in vinyl sales. Before last Christmas, Luminate reported that more than 2 million vinyls were sold in 1 week. Clearly, folks have a hankering to own their favorite pieces of media again.
You never know when something's going to go off streaming. You own and can operate at your leisure.
Okay, kids, so once you have the tape, you need something called a VCR, and then you pop it in there unless there's a tape already in there, and then you can't put it in there because that's how it works. Nostalgia. In New York for ABC News, I'm Danny New.